lovely Tuesday, July 12th. Annie, would you be so kind as to do roll call for us?
Absolutely. I have myself, Annie Cathy, Aaron Couts, Jackson Lee, John Hart, Kayla Talbert, Melissa Fisher, Sarah Heineman, Violet Plummer, Campbell Barrett, Laura Henning, Leidy Wagner, Martin Kitston, MCAT, Terrence Wildborer, and it looks like in 206 we have Brian West. Brian West, Allison France, Emmy Bristow, Ann Hughes, Commissioner Slotnick, Strohmeyer, and I can't see everybody. I'm sorry. Who am I missing?
We have Carrie Powers, our new communications coordinator.
Yay. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi.
And we have some guests today. We have Jean Sosol, and Jeremy Keene and John Turner, who are fairground stakeholders.
That is Emily
And Emily
Brock
Brock.
who's speaking.
Okay, and Emily Brock. Thank you, Emily. And it looks like Terry Kendrick has joined us. So I think we've got everybody. If you just want to turn your cameras off until it's your turn to speak, and you can take it away, commissioners.
Thank you, Annie. Did we miss anyone in roll call? Okay. Very good. Are there any public comments on items not on today's agenda? I will make a couple announcements. One, if you have not seen it already or seen them already, travel over Bear Tracks Bridge and you will be in the presence of some banners that our very own Chet Krauser and Shane Stagg helped install. These are lovely installations that were designed and created by the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. So give it a look. It's pretty impressive.
Commemorating the bridge.
Yes, the
You might
bridge.
go to my office.
Okay, and the new date for the formal dedication of Bear Tracks Bridge will be October 10th, Indigenous Peoples Day. Members of the media, if you've not done so already, take a look at those banners. It would make a lovely story. And I believe we put out a great press release jointly with the city and CSKT about a week ago. The other item of business, which should be no surprise coming from me, but on the passenger rail front, a couple of announcements. One, as of yesterday, our very own Montana Department of Transportation joined the Rail Authority as an ex officio board member. So this is a pretty big deal. And also just a plug for the Greater Northwest Passenger Rail Summit, which will be happening in Billings, Montana on August 22nd and 23rd next month. We have a great lineup for this. We have confirmed that the administrator of the Federal Railroad Administration will be joining us in Billings, as will the Assistant Deputy Secretary of Transportation, which I don't know that we've ever had an event in Montana where this level of dignitaries related to rail have shown up. So stay tuned on that front. Go to GN. If you want to see information on the summit, go to www.gnwpr.org. Any other public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, how about the consent agenda? We have, it looks like 10 items listed. Any interest in pulling anything off of there for further discussion? I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we pass this consent agenda.
I will second that. Further discussion, public comment on the consent agenda. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Action items today, we have a number of them. The first of which we will begin with an overview by Jackson Lee related to allocation of the remaining FY22 Parks and Trails matching grant balance. There's Jackson. There's Jackson.
Good morning. Yeah, this action request is regarding the remainder of matching grant funds. Following our 2022 matching grant cycle, there was a balance of $11,500 in unallocated funds. So PTOL staff, in consultation with community partners and the Parks and Trails Advisory Board, we've identified several projects that could be used for utilization of this leftover funding. And these projects would go beyond the capacity of our ground maintenance and repair budget. And they're intended to address deferred maintenance as well as pilot some system-wide improvements. So the projects for consideration include maintenance activities in the Swan Valley and also the purchase of wildlife-resistant garbage cans as match for a grant awarded to us by the Vital Ground Foundation. Pending approval, we are positioned to complete these projects this summer. Open it up to questions if there are any.
Good stuff.
All right.
All right, I'm happy to move that we approve the allocation of the remaining FY 2022 Parks and Trails matching grant balance.
I will second that. Further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. I should note for guests joining us online out there, if you do want to comment at any point that we are taking public comment, please use the raise hand function in Microsoft Teams and we will call on you in the order in which you raise your hand or endeavor to do so. Thanks, Jackson.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next item is brought to us by Kayla Talbert, and this is a CDBG subrecipient agreement.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm going to keep my video off just because my internet's super spotty, so I don't want to like freeze in a weird facial expression. So I am here today to request the board approve the chair to sign the CDBG Public Service Subrecipient Agreement between Missoula County and Missoula Food Bank and Community Center. And this is to support the continued operations of 3 food distribution sites in the county, Lolo, Bonner, and Futura Mobile Home Park. And the subrecipient agreement is for $233,326. And this is just the second step in getting this project up and running. I came to you guys several weeks ago to actually sign the agreement between MDU, the Department of Commerce, to get this grant up and going. And this is just our subrecipient agreement with the food bank to actually do the services that are outlined in that grant. Any questions?
Yeah, it's a great thing that the food bank can make use of CDBG money to work in Lolo and Bonner and out at the mobile home park. Good work. So with that, I would move that the board approve the chair to sign the CDBG Public Services Subrecipient Agreement.
We'll second that. Further discussion? None, all in favor? Aye. All right, good job, Kayla, thanks. Next, John Hart. There he is. You have a request to approve a resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds for RSID 8505.
I do indeed, Commissioners. Good morning. I have a resolution relating to $34,950 RSID District Number 8505 bond, Series 2022, authorizing the sale and prescribing the form and terms thereof and the security therefore. Extremely dull title, but a very exciting document. And so let me tell you why. This is, again, related to RSID 8505. You'll recall that that is the road construction RSID that we've recently created on 29th Avenue and North Avenue West out in the Target Range District. And so what this resolution, $34,950 will be assessed against the property owners in that district. The county is going to sell a bond in that amount. First Security Bank has agreed to purchase it. And the interest rate on the bond is 4.25%, will be paid off over a 10-year period. And this resolution is authorizing issuing that bond and selling it to First Security Bank. It appoints Andrew Charney as the registrar of the bond. So Andrew has numerous obligations under this resolution for the life of this bond. And Andrew, are you out there? Because I had, honestly, Commissioners, This is the first resolution for this RSID that I did not draft. We had Dan Simmons draft this because it was important enough to get exactly right in order to make sure that the private individuals that purchase the bond from First Security get the tax exempt status for a municipal bond. But Andrew, my question for you in reviewing this morning, the interest rate that we're paying First Security Bank or the property owners are is 4.25%, but there's an extra 50 basis points added on to the assessments against the property owners. Where does that extra 50 basis points come from and where does it go? Do you know?
I believe it's established in statute and it goes into the reserve, the revolving fund reserve for backup for the RSIDs that may or may not go under.
I think that makes sense to me, and I'm glad to find out that it's based on statute.
And we have about $700,000 currently in that revolving reserve to make up for any lost RSID payments. And this particular issuance is secured by that reserve. It's not secured by the full faith and credit of the county, thereby giving us a little bit higher interest rate than we would normally receive.
Andrew, is there anything else you want the commission to know about this resolution?
No, it's very straightforward. It's
Okay.
John, is the assessment for the duration of the bond?
Yeah, 10 years. These property owners will be assessed beginning in November, the tax bill, November 30th of 2022. They will have assessments for the next 10 years, twice a year.
Sure. Dave, do you mind if I just riff a little bit here?
Yeah, go for it.
So Martin, I just want to let you know, this is an RSID, not that we have imposed on the good people of 29th and North Avenue, but they came to us with a real road maintenance need and the idea for taking it on themselves. How could they address this issue themselves? And John Hart and Shane Stack did the hard work of pioneering the new Missoula County DIY RSID program. And these guys made it work for the neighbors, and this is officially getting it over the finish line. So thanks a ton for all of your work, John. I know that neighbors and residents out there are really excited to see construction happen.
It looks like we have other representatives of the media besides Missoula Current online, so.
Sorry about
if
that.
you're
I
interested-
saw that MK up there. No distance.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, I was sure that the title to the resolution would be the hook for Martin to do a piece. So
That was pretty sexy. It was almost scandalous.
yeah, that was, and it was going to write itself after that. Well, anyway, I appreciate that, commissioners. It has been a team effort with several people, including Shane and folks from Andrew's department. But anyway, so this is a resolution that can be signed by the chair. It needs to be signed in two places. There's a signature line on page 12. There's also another signature line on page A4. And so with that, I recommend that the chair approve this resolution.
Thanks, John. Any other questions? Motion.
No, I would move that we approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of bonds for that super sexy RSID 8505.
How tantalizing.
Thanks.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion, public comment in the room, virtually? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Excellent. Thanks, John.
Yep, let me plant one more seed. I believe it's next week that somebody, preferably Commissioner Vero, will be available to sign some closing documents for this particular bond. It closes on the 26th, but I understand that there'll be a need for some signatures from Commissioner Vero next week. Is that going to be?
She'll be back at the end of this week.
She
Okay.
will love,
Yeah.
yeah, she'll love to do it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, Aaron Couts, we have an MOU with Western Montana Mental Health Center.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners. Please let me know if you can't hear me. So this is to request the board to approve an MOU with Western Montana Mental Health Center to distribute $113,154 of county tribal matching grant funds to Western Montana Mental Health Center for the establishment of a crisis receiving center. And I'm glad Brian West is there because this has been a little bit of a complicated situation, but Missoula County is essentially a pass-through for these grant funds. The Crisis Receiving Center, it has been a project that's been really worked on through the Strategic Alliance for Behavioral Health, working closely with St. Patrick Hospital and Western Montana Mental Health, but we are the ones that have the grant funds. And so the MOU is really outlining what our responsibilities are and Western Montana Mental Health is the project director of this project. And I've invited Terry Kendrick here as well to answer any specific questions about the project, but that's the reason why we're doing the MOU. It's basically just a way to ensure that the funding that we have through the grant is being used in the way that the grant intends.
Thanks. Terry, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Aaron covered that well, that it needed to be an MOU because Western owns the property that we're renovating.
Okay, then should I riff a little bit?
It's so,
As-
it's so uncharacteristic.
I know, and I don't know if I can come up with anything as good as DIY RSID, but I'm gonna my best here. So first, I want to throw out some more praise to Terry. Terry has herded cats with the Strategic Alliance for Behavioral Health to get this thing up and running. This is a huge leap forward in how we help folks who are in crisis. Crisis Receiving Center is a place where someone can go to voluntarily or be brought to if they need that assistance. They can be there for 24 hours and let whatever's in their system leave their system so they can properly have a mental health evaluation and go to the next step. These types of things are in use in other communities across the country with great success, taking a lot of pressure off of emergency rooms and jails and the personnel who have to do that typically. So Terry's done an amazing job getting us to where we are. We're going to use ARPA money to get this thing physically refurbished and stood up, and hopefully late fall, early winter, this should be in action. And this is really a partner with another city-county effort, or the mobile support team. Mobile support team are meeting folks out on the street where they are de-escalating crises. And if they need somewhere to go, this is where we can bring them, as opposed to jail or the emergency room. This is great headway.
Excellent overview. Thanks, Josh. Connor McCauley, looks like you have a question.
Yeah, if I could just ask if this falls in line with the charting a path forward strategy and what's the need for the crisis center in Missoula County?
So I can speak to the need. The need right now is typically if someone is under the influence of some substance such that we can't properly do a mental health evaluation, that person's brought to the emergency department or possibly to jail, because those are our only options, but they're not the best option for the folks in question. We can bring someone who's in that state to a crisis receiving center. They can come back to themselves over the course of 24 hours. And once they kind of emerge from whatever state they had been in, they are sort of in the fold. They're met with someone right there who can help them figure out what the next step is, as opposed to waking up in jail or the emergency department would escort you off to the curb. This is going to lessen the financial pressure on the emergency department and on jail, and help people move forward out of whatever it is that's ailing them.
Connor, thanks, Josh. Was there a second part to your question there?
Yeah, just does this fall in line with the charting a path forward, the county initiative for mental health?
Aaron or Terry?
Connor,
do you want to answer that?
Yeah, Connor, I'm happy to answer that. Yes, it does. And also, I want to just add to Commissioner Slotnick's expression of the need that a year or so ago, a firm called JG Research and Evaluation did an analysis of the Missoula County behavioral health care system, and they estimated that Missoula needed about 20 beds, if you will, per night for crisis receiving or crisis stabilization. And right now we have 5 voluntary beds with Dakota Place and 2 involuntary. And so the crisis receiving center would have 16 beds, and that, you know, with Dakota Place should take care of that need. Also, I would tell you that St. Pat's, in the first 3 quarters of 2020, they averaged 7.5 people per day in the emergency department for a behavioral health issue.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You bet. Any other questions?
No, I would move the board approve the MOU with Western Montana Mental Health to distribute $113,154 of county tribal matching fund grants for the Crisis Receiving Center.
Second that. Any further discussion or public comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Terry. Good work.
Thanks. Great work, Terry.
Yeah, this,
Thank you,
all.
Aaron, for making the
Thanks
money
for the
happen.
kind words.
you bet. And Aaron, the next one is yours also. This is to authorize the chair to sign a contract amendment with DPHHS.
Yeah, thank you. So this is, I know you're familiar with the County Tribal Matching Grant, but we received a contract extension for the first 6 months of fiscal year 23. We did not have to apply for this. They just gave all of the current grant recipients a 6-month extension, and they basically gave us half of the money that we already got, which is always happy news for us. And so that increased the amount of our total award to a little over $1 million. And so initially we had received, well, I think I wrote it on the thing, but I won't take up time right now looking into the contract. But so basically what this provides is it funds the CIT data analyst. It helps provide support for the mobile support team. It helps provide CIT training. It helps provide funding for the crisis receiving center. It helps provide the funding for the mental health coordinator, the referral and outreach coordinator, and so all sorts of really great programs that provide services in Missoula County. So it's great that we got that funding continued for another 6 months, and then the competitive grant RFP process, the state thinks will open up again probably late fall, and then will be an 18-month grant cycle starting January 1st. So the confusing thing is that this contract amendment got sent directly to, I think, Juanita through DocuSign, and so it has actually been signed already, but I just want to go through and make sure that it has been approved through the through all the important processes. And yeah, so
we're basically ratifying the decision.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. Any questions?
I just wanted to add, this is all part of our jail diversion plan, which is shown to be successful really over the relative recent past, seen a transformation in the population in our jail. It's a good thing. All right, I will move, okay, the right language here. Request the board to approve the chair to sign the contract with DPHHS.
I'll second that. Further discussion or comment? All in favor? Aye. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you all.
We have one item of correspondence, and this is a grant application letter of support to perform a CERCLA natural resource damage assessment at the Smurfett Stone mill site. And there's Elena. Elena.
Hi.
Hi.
hopeful that the natural resource damage program secures this grant so they can move forward with the work that's needed to determine the extent of natural damage at Smurfit. It's something they put forward for the primarily responsible parties to fund, but the primarily responsible parties declined to fund it. And so this is an opportunity to gain funding to see what is going on in the Clark Fork as a result of Smurfit Stone.
It's always disappointing when potentially responsible parties fail to take responsibility, but hopefully this will come through. And just to be clear, Elena, this is separate from the remediation. This would be the kind of floodplain restoration piece. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is under CERCLA, which, forgive me, I can't do that that acronym off the top of my head, but EPA takes over the risk-based remediation, and this is the restoration of natural resource damages. So that's why the impact to the fishery, the impacts further outside of the site, although the site is also supposed to include wherever wastes have come to lie, but this might make that connection better. So without fully exploring the river, the fisheries, osprey, things like that, it's harder to include those pieces into the part of the remediation that falls under EPA jurisdiction.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we're psyched to write this letter of support.
Yeah. So
thanks for doing it.
This will be coming around for our signature. Thanks, Elena.
Thank you.
And moving on to, good spot. Martin Kidston, you have your hand up. And you're muted, Martin.
Thank you. Has M2 Green checked out of this process completely, or are they still in touch with the county or the EPA in any way, shape, or form?
Ryan?
I can't speak to their contact with the EPA and anybody else. I know that we recently had litigation with M2 Green in which they did not respond to the lawsuit after we served them. And so we have had absolutely no contact with them at the county that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that item? Comments? All right, we'll move on to our discussion items. We have three, the first of which is to discuss a potential public hearing for July 28th regarding a resolution that would put to the voters in November of this year a question related to fairgrounds renovations. We have guests in the room here who would like to speak to this. Perhaps I will let Emily do the introductions and take it from here, and then we'll also bring in folks who might want to speak who are with us virtually. So Emily.
So I just want to say thank you guys for your patience. That soporific 30 minutes.
Fun to see you in action.
This isn't much action. But thanks for
Congratulations on your day.
oh, that's really sweet of
Sorry,
you to
that's
say.
personal.
No, that's public knowledge. That's very sweet of you. Thanks. And welcome, and sorry.
So these folks are stakeholders from the fairgrounds, from 4-H, FFA, and Glacier Ice Rink. And they are planning a public hearing on July 28th to put a question to voters this November to build a new livestock and equestrian center for indoor ag sports, and a new third sheet of NHL sized ice that can be used for curling and hockey and public skate and figure skating. And as you know, we've worked, these guys have been partners with the fairgrounds since the beginning. They were part of the master planning process that started, so many years ago, before any of our time. And this is sort of this and the rodeo arena, which is being funded privately, will really be the last sort of chunk of renovations to to happen, and we'll kind of stick a fork in it. And so we're really happy to have them here. The ICE folks have worked really hard to shift their bylaws and their mission to be totally inclusive of everybody that wants to use the ice rinks, and in accordance with our policy about community benefit. And so I let them introduce themselves in terms of this is Jeremy Keene and Jean Zozo and John Turner, and I'll let them kind of talk about what their respective roles have been, but it's yeah, I'm not gonna do the pitch. I'm gonna let them do it. So.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
And we have media on the line here, so you got photographs right
So
now.
no one can recognize me.
Jean, Jeremy, John, take it away.
Still end up, so I'm done with COVID, testing negative, but I just didn't want to take any chances. So, so I'm on the board of Glacier Ice Rink along with Jeremy, and John is on the 4-H board. These two nonprofits have been working together to try to create more opportunities that support kids and adults in Missoula County through our work. Emily mentioned several things that I'm going to mention here, but we did not share notes ahead of time. But we are asking for a $19 million general obligation bond that would fund the indoor livestock and equestrian arena, a third sheet of ice, and green space that includes pathways, landscaping, and site work. The breakdown would be $8 million for livestock, $8 million for ice, and $3 million for the green space work. Glacier Ice Rink would need to do further fundraising in order to build the third sheet and do some upgrades to the existing facility, and we're prepared to do that. As Emily mentioned, this has been many years in the making, and this conversation's been going on for a long time. Most recently, we did restructure our governance model for Glacier Ice Rink. Spent 2 years working on this so that we could increase our efficacy and become a more inclusive or collaborative organization. And I think we've done a really good job with that. And we needed to do that to kind of get to where we are today so that we could come to you. And I mean, it's all part of the master plan here. From an ice perspective, we're asking your support in building another indoor rink because we are at capacity. Our latest numbers show 110,000 visitors to Glacier Ice Rink each year. Most of them come for public skate or for youth group skating sessions that we offer to area schools and to area nonprofits. We're offering as much programming as we possibly can in the existing indoor rink that operates from September through June each year, and then an outdoor sheet of ice that really only operates for 4.5 months from November to early March each year. So with that, these are some examples of things that we've run up against. Last spring, we've had dozens of young skaters that came for a Learn to Play program that we offered to introduce little kids to ice sports. And it was great to see those kind of numbers, but we don't have any room to move them into programs this winter because we're at capacity. We're at capacity with Ice Time for Missoula Figure Skating Club, for the Curling Club, for women's beginning hockey, and we can't even consider things like sled hockey that we've been talking about for years and other ice sports that we would offer to people with all abilities. The ice festivals, the curling and hockey tournaments that we are able to have, bring in about $1.9 million each year into the Missoula economy. And that's impactful. And we would like to be able to build on that, but we're at capacity. Like I said, we're simply maxed out in what we're able to do. I'm a firm believer in building opportunities for the future. And I know, we're also trying to address crises of the moment. But I think a third sheet really of ice would expand opportunities for more kids and adults in Missoula County. It would keep them active and engaged. It would help kids gain confidence, find purpose, build skills, and belong to something greater than themselves. And all of that, I think, really does help to increase the health and well-being of our community, not just for today, but for many, many years to come. And I'm going to pass it off to John, but thank you guys for listening to us today and for considering our request.
Again, my name is John Turner. As Vice President of the Missoula County 4-H Council, past FFA Alumni President, and Missoula County FFA Advisory Board Member, I'm here today to ask you for your support for this public hearing. In 1913, agriculturalists and business leaders, much like myself, asked Missoula County voters for $50,000 to purchase the land that eventually has become our Missoula County Fairgrounds. We're here today to ask you to renew our community investment in those very same fairgrounds. Currently, 4-H and FFA share space with the ICE users for our youth education programs. It is a terrible and frustrating use of shared space. It is very inefficient, time-consuming, labor-intensive for a very short 3 weeks of use in the summertime. Our volunteer leaders use their homes, their churches, schools, and any other available space during the remainder of the year for the programs. Our fairgrounds offer learning opportunities in those short 3-week time period in agriculture, in technology, animal husbandry, and community involvement for more than 400 students just through 4-H and FFA. With improved year-round facilities, our kids and community will have dedicated space to grow and continue these programs. 4-H and FFA participants, 4-H and FFA participants are 4 times more likely to give back to their community and twice as likely to make healthy choices. But given the opportunity to grow these programs and participants, my question is, why wouldn't? I would also like to address you from my non-volunteer role in the community. Our family has owned and operated our businesses in Missoula starting back in 1974. As business owners, we don't like tax increases. However, a bond to fund the much needed improvements on our fairgrounds is an investment in our community, our future, and our youth. The tangible benefits to many of our local businesses will be significant. The tangible benefits to our youth will be even more significant. So we support any tax increase for those reasons. Our youngest son, Gus, is a senior in high school this year. He has grown up participating and competing in 4-H and FFA. He has proudly been able to represent both these organizations and Missoula at local, regional, state, and national competitions. He is just one of the many Missoula County students who have thrived and already given back to our community, who can't vote for this bond issue. Even though he is graduating next year and will not be able to see this vision to fruition, he is super excited about it. He and his officer teams have been using it as a recruiting tool for new membership for both FFA and 4-H. So I'm asking again, let's listen to our kids. Let's put this on the ballot for our community, for our youth, and certainly for our future. Thanks, John.
Jerry? Thanks. I'm Jeremy Keene. I'm here today as a representative of the Glacier Ice Rink Board, not as my usual day job at the city. So I'm clear about that. Thank you for considering this request. We understand there's a lot of needs in the community right now, and we have to react to those. But I want to also remind you that we need to think about the long game, and things that Gene and John have both talked about are important steps in being proactive and preventative and around some of the problems that we're dealing with, and all the great work that's happening with taking action to protect our most vulnerable people, to protect affordability, to keep our communities safe. These are all reactions to underlying problems. And what we have at the fairgrounds is an opportunity to be proactive. We get to invest in those core values that help Missoula be more resilient and more successful to overcome those things and even prevent some of those things from happening in the first place. So the fairgrounds it's where we gather. It's both urban and rural Missoula County residents coming together for the fair, for the rodeo, dog show, weddings, concerts. It's where those two things intersect. And cities have always been the place where rural folks come for the things that they need, and urban folks have always relied on rural folks for those things like food production and raw materials and things like that. And the fairgrounds is where that comes together. So it's where we go in the winter for tournaments and hockey games. It brings people to town to fill our motels and restaurants and our local shops. It's where we create open space, room to roam and think. It's the public spaces that help us live smaller and more compactly so that housing can be more affordable. It's where we take those positive steps to help kids belong and have purpose, build skills. It's that 4-year-old finding the joy of gliding across the ice and letting go of your hand for the first time. It's that 12-year-old showing their lamb that they raised and realizing the pride of hard work. It's the 16-year-old kid being part of a team, finding success when nothing else is working in their life. And I've seen that personally. We can invest in the fairgrounds, and when we do that, we invest in people. We create that opportunity to participate. And right now we can't do that. We can't continue to grow these programs, both in 4-H and ICE, without more space. The limits of our facilities mean right now we're turning people away. And so those people, kids and adults, don't get to participate. They don't get that opportunity. So we've done this before. We've seen previous generations of Missoulians look forward and invest in our future. And as John said, the fairgrounds were built with public money over 100 years ago. And in my lifetime, I've seen us invest in schools, open space, and a new library. And I'm really proud to be part of a community that's willing to do that, to invest in our kids, to invest in other people's kids, to make sure Missoula is a great place to grow up and that we're growing good adults. And we hear a lot about taxes, but I believe that people live here and they're successful here because of these investments, not in spite of them. So we're asking you today to help us create those opportunities for future generations. We'd like you to take action to ask the voters to decide if they're willing to invest in the fairgrounds for the next 100 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Is there anyone online who would like to comment or ask a question?
Martin and Connor, this is good story material.
And we will have a public hearing on this matter on July 28th. So this is not your last chance to comment or weigh in. Anyone out there online? Anyone in the room? Any closing remarks?
Well, Josh, yeah, thanks a lot for coming in, and you're well prepared and passionate and informative presentations. I'll appreciate it. And I wish the media was listening, but I'd say one of the things I appreciate about this is that it's not entirely covered by taxes, but that you are fundraising, and you're also going to use a revenue bond, which for the folks media who aren't listening, that means you pay that bond back. We don't pay a bond back with money you generate through selling Ice Time. I'm appreciative that on the ballot, tax money is only one piece of a financing package. It's not carrying the whole load. Oh, and I'm totally moved by what you're saying about the future and the history of agriculture. It's all good stuff.
So on the 28th of this month, yeah, if you guys could just plan on recapping what you provided today. If there's other folks who'd like to testify, provide a different perspective, to build upon what you've mentioned, have at it. I think to hear back to something Josh mentioned, if you could lay out maybe even in a slide, not a huge fan of overusing PowerPoint, but just if you could graphically lay out for us the dollar amounts, incoming revenue streams to make all of this come together, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think those will be hopefully people will be listening then. The questions they'll want to ask about would be around money. And I think it's really strong that the tax piece is only but a piece, not the entirety.
And I think too, we'll have an opportunity there to share with you more of county perspectives, city perspectives, and so you really can get a sense that it is for all of Missoula County, that it's not just serving the residents of the city.
That's a powerful message.
I think, Emily spoke about the history of the master plan. We asked all of our user groups, what would you like? And of course, we came up with a long list and some very expensive projects. And something we've worked on in the last few years, recognizing that the money wasn't there to do all of the things, to figure out what is it that we really need? What are the basic needs we need in the fairgrounds to continue to grow the programs, do the things that we're doing well. And so there was a lot of cutting back and reusing. We're gonna reuse the existing ICE building. We're gonna renovate that and continue to use it for the next 20 years because we recognize there's a lot of good investment there. And we scaled back the new sheet of ice to the point where it's the basic needs that support the program. And I know that livestock has done the same thing. So, and then there's a commitment for private fundraising. So we're going to put some skin in the game. We're going to make sure that our users also are willing to.
It's great.
Do you have any visuals that you could share in terms of what this might actually look like?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that would be.
I think that's great. Great call. Yeah, that'll end up being a picture in the paper.
Anything else?
No, just wanted to give you the heads up and, make sure that you're, when I scheduled the meeting, I was very careful with, to make sure that you're all here because it's not just a quorum we need 3 commissioners. So July 28th, we will see you there.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
We've got a couple more items here, but
you can do it without us.
Well, you can stick around. This is exciting stuff. So thank you all. So how would you like to handle the next items?
What I'd like to do is we'll take the 2 items up. I'll give you a general introduction and then we'll find you down the line to a more substantive not for what I'm going to do. Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the folks on this item? Now that our audience is listening. Okay.
Yeah, it's worth looking at.
Thanks, John.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I will turn it over to Brian West for a couple items dealing with legal matters.
Commissioners, I'm here for 2 litigation matters, and being mindful of the time that's left in the meeting here today, I'm just going to introduce them to you. I'm going to let you know that we've reviewed both of them for conflict purposes, capacity issues, and our office has the ability to defend them. So we will be defending them in the coming weeks, and I expect we'll probably find another meeting down the line to put them on the agenda and walk you through each individual claim. The first issue is Bruce Holy versus the Missoula Clerk Recorder. That is DV 22557. That is a case where an individual wants to remove a document that has been recorded with Tyler Duran's office. It's dated back a few decades. The Clerk and Recorder's office says they cannot remove anything publicly unless they have a court order. And so we don't anticipate that this will be a very long issue to litigate over, but it is a matter that we will have to defend. The second issue is John Law Jr. and the Missoula County Election Integrity Project versus the Missoula County Elections Office and Bradley Seaman in his official capacity as DV 22729. This is the first litigation we've seen in relation to the November 2020 general election. The best summary that I can give to the commissioners today is that the intent behind this lawsuit is to get a declaratory action from the court defining certain documents as public records and therefore subject to certain retention schedules. The follow-up to that would be an injunction requiring Missoula County to retain those records for a certain amount of time. The best summary that I can simply put together today is the focus is on the YouTube live stream. If you recall, during the 2020 elections, we were in the midst of COVID. COVID protocols meant that The public wasn't able to come into the closed space to view the ballot counts like they historically would have been. And so as a measure to mitigate that, the elections office provided a YouTube live stream to allow individuals to watch the process from their homes where they couldn't physically be in there due to the pandemic. Second issue in the video would be the surveillance videos surrounding the property and the structure. The second category of items that this lawsuit focuses on is the CTCL grant monies, which the commissioners are probably likely familiar with. In short summary, the lawsuit is seeking to require the county to produce records, which, to be frank, we have already produced under numerous records requests, which are available under the next request system. And then the third area is an amorphous voter roll data, which, to be frank, I'll have to have Bradley Seaman to describe to the commissioners what he thinks that they are arguing for. But again, to draw it back to a point, the intent behind this lawsuit is to get the court to make a ruling that the YouTube live stream video, surveillance video are equivalent of election records and need to be retained for 22 months, that the CTCL grant is material and documents that need to be produced to the public. And last but not least, that if there is this voter roll data, which we are unclear what their allegations pertain to, that needs to be retained as well. So that is a very, very short, succinct summary of it. And what I would like to do is find time on the commission's calendar, perhaps with Commissioner Vero available, and walk you through what our response strategy will be with Bradley. But I'm afraid looking at the clock, we probably don't have time to walk through that here today.
No, it'd be great for Juan to be back.
Any questions I can answer with the scant time we have left?
I do not have any, and the folks out there did not realize this. All of those juicy details were produced from memory by Brian Webb
Yeah,
without
well
notes.
done.
Good
That
work.
was well done. Yeah. I look forward to a more robust, detailed discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll acknowledge both lawsuits, we'll file answers, and we'll defend the lawsuit.
Well done. Thank you.
Any other items that folks need to bring up at this time? All right. Thanks, everyone. We will be adjourned for today.